and we let that spirit or the source energy, the spirit itself do the work. Like it truly is. I love the biblical scriptures that talk about it's not by our power, it's not by our works. That's true. It's not by our work. We practice and surrender so that we can allow the worker to do the work. And the worker is that higher consciousness that does the work and helps us begin to release these different things. So when we align with that power, it does something different. It helps us, it transcends the condition.
Call yourself or where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world with
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, and good day to you wherever you are at this very moment in time. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening and giving yourself permission to be transformed. I am your host, your transformational beingness artist. I'm here to transform you, to inspire you, to be so much more. Welcome to another episode of Being You, the journey back to self. This is season 2, episode 4, part 2. See if you can catch that. Season 2, episode 4, part 2 with John Stringer. We had such a great conversation last week. And, you know, John and I, we start talking and it's a wrap. Everything else is irrelevant. We don't care if you only scheduled an hour to be with us. We got more to say. But there was so much that I wanted to cover, that I wanted to share and talk with John about, and we didn't get a chance to complete last week. So I'm going to keep this moving so we can do it this week. Yeah, take a deep breath in. Trust the process. Good morning, Shoyinka, my dear sister. Kwali is in the house. Christine is in the house. India is behind the scene, hiding and doing her thing. John is standing by. Yeah, just want to take in this moment. If you missed part 1 of our show, my conversation with John last week, May 19th, 2020, I strongly recommend that you go back and check it. You don't have to. It's an invitation. But I strongly recommend you do, because you're going to miss out. But, you know, like we said on that show, it will serve you one way or another. Let me see. I think I want to bring John on right now. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to read his bio first and then bring him on. And you can find out more. I'm just going to read a little bit of his bio, actually. I'm doing something different. Well, I don't know if I'm doing something different. I feel like I'm doing something different. So I feel different. So let me tell you about John. He's a life teacher, a speaker, Billboard-charting singer-songwriter, a healer, and an author with a passion for music, community, expansion, and limitless love and light. He currently serves as founder of Polyplat Records, co-founder of MasterMomentMakers.com, an intuitive training membership site, partner at Healing Arts Management and Conscious Songwriting Retreat.com, and a true collaboration leader at Banding People Together, which is a clients include leaders at Netflix, Focus Brand, Home Depot, Cisco, Microsoft, NASA, ESPN, SunTrust, and many more. You know what I'm going to do? I'm bringing John up right now to rescue me, because, take that last sip, John, because I'm bringing you up. As I read your bio, right, I'm remembering what I said last week on last show, that you're always doing something. If you got 10 projects, you're going to be bored. So I'm bringing all the things you do. I'm like, yep, that's my brother.
Yes, man, yes.
So I was struggling to get through it, hearing my own joke in my head. It's all good. Listeners, you can find out more about John Stringer by going to johnstringerinc.com. johnstringerinc.com. On social media, Facebook, it's facebook.com/JohnStringer1111. That's the number, 1111. And on YouTube, it's John H. Stringer. Don't leave the H out. On Instagram, it is John.H.Stringer. And on Twitter, it is John Stringer. Correct? Yeah. But you don't have to write all of that down. Just go to his website. It will take you there. That's just things to fill air. You know.
You know what's crazy?
No, I don't.
I put in these earbuds trying to hear you better, and all of a sudden the sound disappeared. So I won't be using these.
Where'd you get that from? Dollar Store? You don't have to answer that.
That's possible. I don't know where those came from.
But can you hear me well?
Strangely, I mean, it may be my computer. Let me just turn up the volume some. I just didn't want it to feed back into the mic.
Okay. Hey, Robert Underwood, my brother. So nice to see you. Tracy, thank you very much. Now they can hear you.
Awesome. Sorry about that.
No,
good to be heard. Everybody wants to be heard.
That's right. That's right. No matter how much we front, I don't care what other people think. Yeah, you
right, man.
Don't even bring that over here.
That's one of the big lessons we used to teach at banding people together. Mm-hmm. The company you talk about in the bio, we teach about creating an environment where people feel safe to be heard so they can be vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
So that there's an element of trust, there's an element of vulnerability, but creating that environment and relationship is paramount if you want to have what we like to call, Kathy and I, aligned relationships. So, yeah, we do that with our son. I know we're going to talk a little bit about that, but
that's right.
Just wanted to say we launched a new episode, bro. Actually, a couple of new episodes on Awaken Pillow Talk, our podcast. Mm-hmm. So get this. Right after our first Facebook Live, did you listen to that first Facebook Live, Awaken Pillow Talk by chance?
The very first one you did?
Yeah, the very first one we did.
I don't think I did. I don't think I did.
Check this out. Right after it went live, I used the software and ended the Facebook Live, right? And I saw it go off. I was like, all right. Now get this, bro.
I think I know where this is going.
Somehow it kept recording. We didn't even know. We were just sitting there. Kathy's like, ooh, I'm hot. We just talking. All of a sudden, our son comes in, and we have the most incredible heart-to-heart. I mean, he's just vulnerable. He just tells us what he was dealing with, something we talked about in the show specifically. And so, anyway, we just had it out. And then somebody was texting us as we're talking. Kathy goes, oh no, the mic is still on. There's listening. We bust out laughing. We bust out laughing, but we kept going because it was real, it was intimate, and it gave the truth of one, seeing vulnerability, and us creating an environment where he felt heard, and two, airing the mistakes we had made and owning up to it and things like that. It was beautiful, man. So I was so grateful. So anyway, all that to say, glad to be heard.
No, I feel you, man. I feel you. And it's just, being heard. Being heard is also about vulnerability, isn't it? Sometimes we don't, of course, most times we don't feel safe to be vulnerable. Well, there's a sort of safety that we need to feel in order to be vulnerable. Right. But while being vulnerable, there's still a part of us that's like, oh, this can really blow up. And I listened to that, and what a beautiful demonstration of your application of spiritual principles. Because could it be like, you and Kathy go to an argument, it's like, I'm done with you, something, and your son comes in, you're like, listen, I'm your dad, I'm talking to you, go into your room.
I know, right?
It would be conflicted. I mean, and even if it was that. But there is something about, well, we all know this, that this spiritual truth, it's a daily practice. And I want to say it this way, but I don't necessarily mean it that way, because I think everybody who say they're spiritual and they're walking a spiritual path needs to be practicing it in their day-to-day activity. But
Right.
If those of us who have a platform and we're being an example, sharing with people how to live their life, it's important to kind of be congruent with what we're teaching, right?
That's right.
And it's, so next time you could just, instead of getting somebody else to listen to your podcast and say, oh, I listened to John Stringer and Kathy Stringer's podcast, I approve that message. You guys can approve your own message.
That's right. That's it, man. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go.
Oh, thank you. No, I was just going to say if my eyes look a little sleepy, I was up till 6 a.m. our time, editing the transcripts and producing the podcasts, a couple of new podcasts we just launched. We realized we needed episode 0, which, thanks to you, gave us some great feedback too about it. So just really setting the tone. And then, of course, our last couple of episodes got up there. But, the whole point of that podcast is really about coming from that angle of relating to our families, relating to each other, how we do it, how we create aligned relationship with the highest self or God, and then how we extend that out as a reflection of that internal relationship. So learn a lot of lessons, bro. Oh my goodness. And you know how it is. Even doing a podcast, you learn lessons, much less trying to remember what you learned. But you said it, the practice, man. That's where the rubber meets the road. It's the practice, even in trying to do stuff and stuff not turning out the way you want. It's just like, can you apply the lessons? Can you remember? And that's the thing. The stuff is just the distractions. Can you remember where the power is? Yes. To get back to that alignment. Can you remember? It's easy to forget, obviously, but that practice helps you keep remembering. So I'm grateful for it, even though sometimes in the midst of it, I'm like, yes. I'm laughing on the inside because my day has sort of been like that. I woke up this morning, found out that an insurance company took out more money than they should have taken out of my account. And I saw them like, I'm not dealing with that right now. Come back. They're going to move that to the side. Oh, and then call them up. It was hard getting through to them. And when I finally got through, the guy who was supposedly helping me, it was just this back and forth. And one of the things for me that was really, I can say beautiful, I was affirming for me is, well, first of all, I've been dealing with some stuff on a health level and just kind of like looking at it and looking at my belief and things that I'm holding on to. Right. And so this morning, well, I went to bed around 4 o'clock. So I was going to bed I was in bed before you got to bed. Ooh, right. Go back to this soulmate conversation. But anyway, but we weren't on the same bed, just in case anybody was wondering. That's right. But when I finally did call, what he was telling me was he was reading something that was incorrect, telling me something that was incorrect. And I was helping him see, like, listen, I've been calling and making changes to my policy. Well, you're saying I'm not authorized to do it. I am. And we went back and forth. And the conversation must have lasted maybe about 20 minutes. I was walking. I was out there just going, because the place where I walk is like in circles. And we were literally going around in circles. But I told you, I was so adamant about what I saw and open to what he's seeing. But I was making sure that I let him know that, listen, you're not listening to me. He said, no, you're not listening to me. I said, okay, let me tell you what I think you're telling me. So I repeated everything he told me, right? And I said, is that correct? He said, yes. I said, see, that's the problem. I understand you, but you're refusing to hear what I have to say. No. But the thing is, the point of me saying all of this is normally I would sort of beat myself up. It's like, I could be more loving, more compassionate. I was. Because I was very clear about what I was talking about. In a way, I was voting for myself. I did get upset, but I was very clear about what I was doing. And for me, it was just this place of, because the conversation kind of started off kind of jokey. But I realized I needed to be clear, even in the name of love. And then setting up the show, all my computers was acting up. My iMac suddenly wants me to restart completely. I don't know what happened, to go to Time Machine and reboot from beginning. I'm like, what happened? So up until 5 minutes before the show,
this computer was acting, doing something, just moving real slow. But then when I said it, I just blessed it. I said divine order. And I said divine order, that whatever happens, I'm going to trust the process. And for me, being able to, as you said, remembering the practice. Because it's one thing to remember the practice when things are going well. Right. But remembering the practice when you're in the midst of it, it makes a big difference. It really
does, man. It really does. That momentum is a funny thing. I've noticed, like you were describing, I can relate to so many times. It's funny how dealing with customer service can be one of those experiences that remind you of the practice, right?
Yes.
I remember many times being on these calls, and I think of it as getting sucked into the lower level conflict or ego or whatever. Like I can feel myself getting sucked in when there's a problem and somebody's not listening. And it's interesting, if I'm using my practice, how I recognize those moments where you come to the crossroads. I mean, there's infinite decisions you can make, but one is resistance, to give in to that resistance. As soon as you feel the sensation and the feeling in the body when someone's not listening to you and you want to be heard and you feel like, they're somehow misperceiving, you want to clear it up. There's a little bit of this resistance that might come up, this sensation in the body, this tension or whatever. And that's the great time, the reminder to go ahead and step into the practice. And when I do that, I notice, just like you talked about, I may still feel the emotion, but I'm choosing my wording from a place of love, or I'm choosing my wording even though I feel the emotion, from a more careful and considerate place versus when that emotion comes and I'm not being aware, I'm not aligning or using my practice. That self-awareness goes out the window and I just get sucked into the emotion and I say whatever comes to mind, that usually doesn't feel that great, for anybody involved. Yeah. And so that's, that's funny how customer service, wouldn't you know how much of spiritual practice that can be being on whole service and technology. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Man, I know that feeling.
It's this whole thing to feel like you're not in control, right?
Right.
And one of what you said is being aware. Because I tell you, he was going back and he was telling me something. He said, okay, let me tell you what's happening. I said, okay. Mm-hmm. So he was telling me, I was like, okay. He said, let me finish. I said, okay, I'm just agreeing with you. I was very clear. I was like, me going, made it feel like I was interrupting him. I said, go ahead. I'm just agreeing. I hear you. But I was very clear every word that I was speaking. There were moments where I almost got caught up, but I just brought myself back to that setting and just, okay, you're here to clear your head, but you happen to be dealing with customer service. Relax, take a deep breath. And everything, I was very clear about my words, and self-awareness is the thing. I mean, I left the call. I said to him, okay, I'm complete, because I realized we would just be going back and forth. And there was no helping any of us. I said, okay, I hear you. I just need to let you know now I'm complete. He said, I'm complete too.
It's great. Even in talking about this, like I feel a little bit of energy coming up and stuff like that. Like thinking about the challenges that we've dealt with. And even thinking about it is a great opportunity for spiritual practice. Because it's like in this now moment, I'm like, okay, I can feel some energy coming up. Let me use my practice right now as I'm even thinking about this stuff and discussing this. And suddenly I'm beginning to feel the relaxation in my body. I'm looking at it. I'm like, that's the past. This is now. But the lesson to remember the practice or for those of us to remember to, I like to say this in a way that is more approachable for everyone. To remember to align is the same as to remember to surrender. Same as remember to be present, to center. And for my religious friends, spiritual friends in religion, remembering to recognize the presence of God in this moment and invite that awareness of that presence into now. When we do that, man, that shifts things. It's just like this whole relaxation. Our awareness is more, I'd say, more open to the peace that's present, you know, and we were getting to choose things in alignment with that, with our words, with our actions, etc. So yeah, it's funny, man. Every moment is an opportunity for our practice. You know?
Every moment.
Every moment.
Every moment.
Yeah. That's it, man.
Man, I listened to our conversation last week. I actually listened to it this morning. I think on the way back from walking. And I gotta tell you, it was a great conversation.
Nice. Yeah, it was fun. I mean, it felt good.
It really. I'm not even talking about that from a ego perspective, but from a expanded view, from spirit. It's like what happened through the platform, through our conversation. Because you just said it felt good. Usually when I'm hosting, I'm more in the feeling.
Yeah.
I don't always know because there are other things that I'm doing as well. Wow. But I'm more in the feeling. Sometimes I might, not a lot of shows. I can count how many shows I've done that I've interviewed people that I feel like, oh gosh, there are probably one or two people that I've said, I'm never going to interview them again. And I've been doing this for like 20 years, maybe.
Long time, right? Yeah.
Yes, a long time. But our conversation, I was hearing it, but I was more feeling it to then listen to it. It was like, there's so many gems in there, things that we can use. So I just really want to say thank you. Thank you for your openness. Thank you for just who you are, because the world needs, craving, asking for more authentic, real conversations.
Yeah.
And for men, you know, there's a story about men are not emotional. Men don't share what they're feeling. And I think that's what we may touch on that. I don't know. I think we will through you. But it's like we need to change the narrative, whether it's about men, whether it's about women, whether it's about children. We need to change the narrative, because whatever we're declaring is true. That's what we're going to see. Right. And if we want to see something different, even if we can't, we can just say, let's just say, surrender to God. It's like, okay, God, show me what I need to see. Show me what the truth is. But anyway, thank you for such a beautiful conversation.
My pleasure. Honored, as you know, man. Honored.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you, my brother. Wouldn't happen without you. No doubt. Our co-creation feels good.
Yep.
Beautiful thing, man. So thank you, brother.
You're welcome. Quick question. Your podcast, is it on all platforms or just Spotify?
No, we're only doing it exclusively on Spotify right now. We're going to expand it. I think once we get to we're at 5 shows. Once we get to 7 or 8 shows, we'll launch it on other platforms. But you can only find it on our site or Spotify.
And the name again is Awakened Pillow Talk.
Awakened Pillow Talk, like awakened past tense Pillow Talk.
Okay.
I think Kathy might have posted a link if somebody's watching this on Facebook, post a link.
Just giving a verbal post for those who are listening to
That's right. Verbal post. Yep. Oh, it's a short link. bit.ly/HAMPC. That stands for Healing Arts Management Podcast. So HAMPC. bit.ly.
So that's bit.ly / you say the rest.
HAMPC. That'll take you directly to the podcast. You can hit the all episodes. You can follow us on social media, all that stuff. You can donate, all that.
Okay.
Yep.
So we left the conversation last week around navigating life, the mess of life that leads to us being a messenger if we sit enough to catch the message. And I like that. Yeah, you sit long enough with your mess, you get the message. When you get the message, you can't help but be a messenger. But beautiful. If you keep judging your mess, you're like, why is this happening to me? It's because I don't love myself enough. Your mess is like, you're missing the message. I'm trying to bless you. That's it, man. It's like, I wish I'm very spiritual. I wish I'm mature. Well, you want to sit with your mess long enough. And trust me, I will. Anyway, let's move on. That's a whole different conversation.
Right.
And then the other thing that sort of touched me and moved me is I know the kind of type of relationship you have with your mother. But listening to this show all over again, it's like I just heard things it's not so much heard, but it was more I felt things on a deeper level. And so the influence that your mother had on you, it still does. But I remember you telling me one time that the reason you now play the drum is because your mom, well, the guitar, that your mom made you go guitar. Was it drumming lessons or guitar lessons?
Guitar.
Yeah. And you would not, I don't know if you hated it or just went for it. And
no, that was singing.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I hated doing solos. I didn't want to do that. She made me do it. Yeah, that was singing. But when it came to guitar, I actually wanted a guitar, and she made it happen. Got me a guitar, got me lessons, and it's funny how you can look back on your life and see things from a new perspective as you mature or as you start to choose differently. Because, I could pick out and see things from a negative perspective for a long time. My mom would even say that. She's like, never pour mouth people and never do this and don't do that. Like, don't be negative and stuff like that. But now I can look back and I can see just the perfection of who she has been in my life, what she's done, how she worked hard, bro. I got my work ethic from her. She moved heaven and earth to make sure we had what we needed, got put us in private school, worked multiple jobs, got, education, put education as a priority, put us in the best school she could, all kinds of stuff. Just a lot of great lessons from who she is and what she provided for me as a foundation. So yeah, the older I've gotten, the more I've come to value and cherish who my mom is, who she's been, and what she's brought to our lives. So very grateful, very grateful.
Yeah. And I was going to sort of segue somewhere else. But I'm going to use this next question as a segue. I sometimes hear men who are working with the young people, and they talk about the importance of having a father in the house or having a man in their house to parent the son. And they would say so passionately, ooh, I got some issues about that. There's a part of me that's just like, I can feel the energy. They're so passionate about how a woman can't raise a son. And I just want to jump through the screen and smack the crap out of them. I can feel, I got to work through that. It's like, it's rubbish. A father can raise a daughter into being a woman. A mother can raise a son to being a man.
Right.
So this BS, I get part of what they're saying, but life is always teaching us. There's wisdom everywhere. Big time. You're a perfect example of that. So the segue is, let's talk about your dad.
You got it.
I know, right? What a segue, huh?
Let's that's where we go. That Negro. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, not so much talk about him, but more about the experience of being there, not being there, and the journey you went through. And just because we did talk about that last week, but what was it like? Now, again, I want you, as you remember it, yeah, that's right. What was it like? John and I, we just have this conversation sometimes. We're having conversations at so many levels.
Right.
What was it like? Because you've shared some stories of that, the pain. So just for the listeners too, as we move forward to where I want to go next, what was it like to not have your father in the house, and how you see that affected you then, and maybe now? So
there was I can't help but to speak from the lessons I've learned from it. However, I know you're asking the pain part of it.
I want you to say the lessons, and I'm not even trying to drum up the old.
Oh, okay.
Really, the point that I want to draw out is there are people who may be children, young boys, young girls, having sort of similar experience,
right,
but don't have the perspective of the lesson yet. So someone
Yes.
they can identify with. That's really
Perfect.
what I'm saying. Of course,
Perfect.
I want you to bring
Yes.
all of you.
Good. So yeah, so I'll start with, I can remember the times, not only praying for my dad to come home, trying harder and harder to figure out how do I do it right? How do I get my faith right, my prayer right, whatever? How do I get this right so it works to get him to come back home? By the time I was 16, I'd pretty much given up on that. But throughout that process, encountered a lot of things. Remember being in church on Father's Day and different things, and just breaking down and going to the bathroom to cry by myself as a kid, just because, that feeling and that sorrow and that wanting him back. I remember my mom told me the story one time. She looked out the window and I was just sitting over my bike, I guess on the sidewalk somewhere outside, just crying. She came and she's like, I want my dad. It's like, I don't even remember that, but it's stuff like that I, remember just growing up and feeling that sense of wishing he would come home and wanting to know him. I have dreams, all kinds of stuff. But what's amazing, all of that turmoil, suffering, or what have you that I created, I now can look back and see I had this idea of what I thought the perfect family was, and this idea of the relationship with my dad that I wanted and all of that. That's what I was longing for, hoping for, and praying for. Whereas reality was what showed up. And it took a long time it took into my adult life to recognize the suffering I was creating was because I was holding on so tightly to this illusion that I wanted. The illusion was my dad being home. That was not what was. And whenever we hold on to tightly what we want, and at the same time resist what is, in other words, what's showing up, I reject this. It should be like this. I want this illusion. We end up, as you talked about, missing the message, missing the message, because we're defining what's showing up as the mess, but we're judging it and resisting it so bad, we're creating our own suffering. Thankfully, I think by the time I was in high school, I think I was at a better place. I probably stopped praying for my dad to come home by that time. But I think I'd made some more peace, even though there was a lot of insecurity. I remember this just insecurity about being a man, knowing how to be a man. And I had a lot of male figures in my life, but knowing how to be a man and all of this stuff. What I realized once I became an adult and through a lot of meditation, a lot of listening to spirit and asking, was the path that I was on. And I mentioned this last time we were together, not only crafted a great desire to have that connection with my father, which translated into me wanting that connection with the divine, the true father, everyone's father, but in actually accessing that and having that, but also it birthed in me this not knowing what the limited, conditioned thinking of the masculine typical programming was. Like, I got some of it from society, TV, or whatever, but I didn't have a man in my life telling me, man up, suck up your emotions, stop crying, don't cry, don't ever let them see you cry, all this stuff. I didn't have that kind of conditioning. So it allowed me to be in tune with emotions more, I believe, and more aware of the more subtle energies and the more subtle things. And then my mom would often teach, it's the little things, like in relationship and how you do things. She'd always say, don't give me my flowers when I'm gone. She talked about the importance of appreciation. She would take me to the elderly. We would visit the elderly. My mom truly practiced and practices her faith, like devotions every day in the Bible. So she taught me all these things that who knows, had my dad been in my life, what I've gotten, but I got what I needed. I got what shaped me into being who I am, and I'm grateful for who I am. And what was showing up, like you said, was a blessing. It was just difficult to see it because I was so distracted by the illusion of what I thought should be. My dad should be here. We should be a whole family. And my mom was big on talking about this is a family. She was like, I can't remember the exact language I would use, but I just remember early on her correcting me to say, no, this is a family. You know what I'm saying?
Your mom was teaching you
ain't nothing
truth.
incomplete about this, I just remember these little lessons.
Yes.
And I'm trying to recall them the best I can, but
right. As you remember, I want to
like
say,
now I would define it as she was teaching me wholeness, and she would always teach me how it's not what happens, it's how you respond to what happens.
Exactly.
She taught me a lot of lessons about observing. I'm saying like it's past tense. She's still in my life and still teaching me stuff. And the reality is she shares a lot. That's her way of loving. That's her way of caring. And so I learned even that from her to share as a way of giving love and to care. And then there's lessons I learned that I decided to choose differently about certain things. But back to my father, I think was him not being there was a valuable lesson in another way, because my life, I made very similar mistakes. Not the exact same, but similar mistakes to what he did. As a child growing up, I made some mistakes, and I didn't find out until my late teens the mistakes he had made. And it blew my mind, right? But it gave me the opportunity to learn to forgive myself first and then forgive him. Like even as a young adult, made some big mistakes with family, things that I learned from, made the mess. Then I learned the message, got the message, and now I get to share it. But even him not being there for my first child, I made that same mistake for all sorts of excuses, decided not to be there. And then later, like in her early teens, corrected that and changed that. And I was so grateful to have that lesson. But it was my father not being in my life that taught me so many valuable lessons about who I am, and then helped me see the patterns and the connection of he and I. Without him even being in my life, got to meet my siblings as an adult, and they would tell me how much I'm like my dad, how I laugh like him, so it was also amazing to see my behaviors without him being in my life. Hadn't seen him since I was 3 until like mid-20s or whatever. How those patterns manifest because of our interconnectedness anyway. And even the mistakes I made, the decisions I made, but I learned from them. So that's what I'm grateful for. Like,
yes.
The reason I call them mistakes is, you know this, and I'll just share it with those who might be ready for it. But, it's like drawing. When you learn how to draw from master teachers, I remember getting frustrated as a kid. I loved to draw. I was so passionate, but I gave up because I couldn't get things exactly right. I was so passionate as a kid. I remember meeting people and they would show me new techniques of how to roll just a piece of paper into a tool to smudge so you can make the eyeballs more realistic. Little things like that. I was so young and I was fascinated with this creativity. And yet, as an adult, I went back to it because I gave up on it, and I started to learn, there's a technique where as you draw like a straight line, for an example, you don't just go whoosh. Without using a ruler. What you do is you make little strokes and you observe and are aware of what it looks like, and then you just correct. You gently correct. Each take may be off a little bit, but you keep correcting until the whole thing is a straight line, looks straight, right? Because each correction, you judge it, look at it, inspect it, and then you correct on the next take. So the overall direction is straight. Same thing with a circle. So I found that fascinating and began to practice that. But I believe it's the same with our decisions in life, if we're aware and observant, being self-aware through our alignment, each take we may make a mistake, but then we take it again and correct it. We just align it. Oh, I'm all out of alignment. Let me bring it back on. So it alleviates a lot of the judgment. Because, man, yeah, I had a lot of judgment, not only at my dad, but at my own decisions. I mean, I had a lot of shame and guilt that I had to process, and I had to release to recognize that we all do the best we can, and we all make mistakes. We all make mistakes. And the most important place is to be able to go within and connect with that loving presence, God, spirit, what have you, so you can let go of the self-judgment, so you can receive the highest form of forgiveness, which is what some call righteousness. It's that love, seeing no records of wrongs, that redemption, if you will, being able to accept that. That's from spirit. That's from Christ consciousness. That's from Elohim itself, right? Being able to accept that allows us to be able to let go and shed this misperception of our mistakes. And then we can get the message. We can offer ourselves forgiveness, and we can apologize. We can do all the things we need to do for those who may be holding things against us, but it's not for us to change even what they see. So my dad was my teacher in being able to forgive, being able to accept, and even see him as perfect and know. But this didn't come from my own choosing to think this way. This came from connecting with spirit, this forgiveness that sees it as perfect, not the forgiveness that sees it as I can excuse your imperfection, but the forgiveness that can see the perfection in your mistakes. That comes from a higher level of consciousness.
That's it. Lean not to your own understanding, right?
Accept it, yeah. It's like transcends. It doesn't make any sense.
That's it. It doesn't. It doesn't. And I want to say, because one of the things you said earlier too, it's like, the fact that you had expectations of your dad or what you think your family should look like. I think there's also something to be said. It's just that innate need to belong. So it's not just you were creating suffering. There is a part of us that yearn for that connection, for oneness in life. So even sometimes in yearning for oneness, we become very judgmental or critical. Like we look at family members as siblings and we judge them because we want them to be a certain way so we can really love them as a sibling. But because they're not, we choose to judge them, which then makes us even more feeling more separated from them. The other thing that you said is, I want to go back to that. But before I do that, there was a comment from Kwali, and I want to ask Kwali. She said, my father crossed over at the age of 15, and she searched all through her teens and 20s. But I want to ask you, Kwali, did you get a chance to meet him before he passed over? Because those are things that male and female, man and woman, deal with. And sometimes there's some people say, I don't have a father. It's like, okay. Hey, it's not me to tell you about your experience, but you do. You may not have been present. And as you were sharing last week as well, that there's an imprint of those who came before us in us. So yes, I have spoken to someone who actually got mad at me. She was saying some things about her father, and she was like, she said there's something that she does that's like her father. She's never met him. And I was kind of telling her the same thing, like, just because we never meet them doesn't mean they don't live in us. That's it. And she had an attitude. And I'm like, hey, don't get mad at me. I'm just telling you as it is. But they live in us. They may not be there physically. But what I want to go back to is, you said, being vulnerable, being in touch with your emotions. I don't know, maybe your views are different now, but was there a time when you thought if your dad was around, he would have trained you, conditioned you out of being emotional? Your head was like, oh.
And that response might have been too early.
Okay.
What I was hearing before you even finished was how I thought if my dad was around, fill in the blank, right? Mm-hmm. I used to think if my dad was around, I'd know how to be a man. The reality is, if my dad wasn't around, I still wouldn't know how to be a man. I'd know how he chose to be a man.
That's right.
I'd still need to figure out how I need to be a man, how I need to show up. I can repeat and model myself after his conditioning, or I could discover for myself. Now I see that, but back then, obviously you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. But what I recognize now is for every child, and this was beautiful when Kathy and I used to, together we would check in about and ask about our children. Jolie, specifically, we were asking about, parenting her and what school to put her in, the situation, and what the knowing was teaching us. Spirit source was guiding us to recognize it doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter where we put her. She's going to get the lesson she needs. Whatever school we choose, it may show up in different ways, in different disguises, but God has got her. Same thing for us. It doesn't matter which direction we go, what mistakes we make.
That's right.
That infinite love and intelligence that is bringing us what we need has got us. It cannot be separate. We can't be separated from it. It's the essence. You can't go anywhere, no matter whether you go to the north, to the south, the east, to the west, to the window, to the wall. That essence, the divine, is there all the time and is always assisting to bring us what we need. It just comes in different shapes, different forms, different ways, but it's always accessible when we're ready. Same thing with Jolie, same thing with our children, same thing with us, same thing with our parents, same thing with anyone in our relationship. What it told us is, or what the knowing was reminding us of is, and it's relevant to if my father had been there. If my father had been there, I still would have needed to learn where the power truly was. What I desired was knowing how to be a man, but what life was bringing me was how to find my power, to truly know more than just the programming, the conditioning, the limitations passed down and mistakes and cycles and traumas that we give and pass down, right? More than just that creation. It was using that to help me remember, okay, where's the transcendence? Where is the peace that passes all understanding? Where's the true power? And that is only found in our essence, or God, or source, or however you want to put it. But that's nice to say, yet it's even nicer to apply, to experience through finding those practices that work, and through finding, okay, now, what does it mean for me to be a man? Really, what's more important is, what does it mean for me to be aligned in this moment so that I can be an expression of the divine, whether in man form or not, whatever form it is. Can I be aligned now and see the beauty in all that has occurred and all that is unfolding, and actually recognize the grace, the love, the just blessing of being now? Can I align with that and be in that space? Then being a man is almost like one of those limited constructs. It becomes so limited. It's like, that's nice.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Because this idea of us feeling like, if someone was there, my dad was there, my mom was there, my father didn't do this, my mother didn't do this. Yeah. If someone was different, things would be different. The fact that we think we can use our finite mind to understand this divine plan, it's like, how is it easy for us to look back and say, oh, if my father was there, I would be a different person.
Yeah.
So if you're that wise, then you can recreate a different reality. But I also understand that there is, in a way, a need to find fault because we're finding fault with ourselves. You
Mm.
said earlier, you said when you judge your dad, you were judging your dad and you were judging yourself. You can't judge another without judging yourself. You are the generator generating the judgment.
Mm.
In fact, the other person you're judging probably don't even know you're judging them. They might think you're the best thing that ever happened to them. And they're telling other people how grateful they are for you while you're judging them. They don't even know. So we can't judge somebody, betray somebody without even betraying ourselves.
Yeah.
And it always points back to self. Now, let's sort of move forward because you've shared a lot in there that I could just kind of break down. Now, your journey about being a father, and I think there's so much I can say because I know you, you're my brother, I know a lot. So I'm going to fast forward. Last week I joked about sometimes you told me some of the things you did with your son, Johnny. And I'm like, you did what? Why? It's like, I grew up in Nigeria. If my father made a mistake or my mom made a mistake and said something wrong to me, they're not going to call me and apologize. It's like, and you telling me you did something and you checked in and you realized you misunderstood him and you went to apologize. My first reaction, because of how I grew up, was like, what's the point of that? Just keep moving. But there are things that I see you do with your children, with Jolie, all your children, and Johnny, that I find it very inspiring. And, you know, you've had, and I'm just going to put you on front because I know it's safe. And if not, I'll just ask for your forgiveness. And it doesn't matter if you give it or not, because I already forgiven myself.
That's right.
You've had experience with Johnny at age 6, things that had happened that brought you to tears, and you both were crying.
Yeah.
What is that about you that made you so determined to raise a young person who is aware, who knows how to check in, and also you're checking your own relationship and interaction with him? Was it just because of your father not being there, you were determined to be different, or is it all part of your spiritual process, growth?
I think all of the above. The father not being in my life gave me the desire. The father not being in my life, me not being in my first child's life, both of those things gave me a desire to change. Like I repeated the cycle actually first, and then recognized it. Had to apologize to my firstborn first. And like when she was 13, reaching out to her mom, apologizing to her too, and just saying, look, I want to change this, and making the steps to do that best I could, right? But all of those things.
Let me ask you something real quick.
Go ahead.
Did that experience opened up your heart in a way where you could be more compassionate towards your father?
That's a good question. Funny enough, I was going through that before I met him, because my firstborn Phoenix was born while I was in college, and then I didn't meet my dad until after that. And after 3 years old is when I wasn't in my daughter's life for about 10 years, and then firstborn daughter, and then I met my dad in between that 10-year time period. Mm-hmm. So it's funny that I really believe, like I believe the universe has this beautiful way of weaving things where it brings the healing in sometimes just powerful ways that's beyond my comprehension. Like, I know this is left field, but I'll bring it back around. But give you an example. I was so angry with one of our first dogs, Pitbull. He used to tear up everything. Jerry Jones used to literally pull aluminum siding off the house, would chew through doors. I'm literally through doors. This dog would not listen. It was crazy, right? I remember one time I was doing something, and I just smacked the heck out of it, right? It was angry, and I felt so bad about that. Then later one day I came home, she was hanging by her leash, choking, and had somehow wrapped herself around the deck and was hanging off. I'm like, what in the world? And I was able to save her. It was like the universe gave me this opportunity to heal the judgment, mistakes, guilt, shame, sorrow, et cetera, et cetera. I feel like that was the same with my dad, where I had had very similar experiences, and it was my opportunity to accept, embrace, forgive, and see the lessons in my own actions so that I could then see him accept and embrace him as a part of me, a part of God, an extension of this holy family, right? So anyway, I feel like that's what happened with my dad. And then my ability to shift and choose to be a father, both with my son, like my son coming into the world was actually a nice shift for me to begin to rethink what my role as a father was. And that even helped me take more responsibility for my firstborn and change the relationship and, best I could, best I was able. Right. And so I just feel like there were several things working in a way that I don't know if I need to completely comprehend at this level anyway, because at the higher level, I know it.
Because healing happens always. When healing happens, it heals the past, it heals the future, it heals everything. Exactly. It's not like just in this moment, because it changes how you look at the past, and it changes how you see in your future. Once you're healed, that's why healing is not just for me. It's not just for you. It's not just for us. When we heal, we're healing for all of humanity.
Yes.
So when someone may be critical, you have eyes of compassion.
And it's easy to think our work in healing, first defining healing letting go of the misperceptions, healing letting go of the judgments, healing letting go of the limited conditioning thinking that makes us think something's wrong, all is not well, that it's not all right, letting go of all of that stuff so we can see from the divine perspective that all is well and always is, no matter what has ever happened, and that everything is oneness. Everything, the truth of that. When we're aligning and accessing that level of truth, the healing becomes releasing our belief in these misperceptions. Doesn't mean the thoughts won't come up. We just don't get triggered by them because we're not investing our belief energy or investing that power, giving them any power. It's like they arise. Oh, look at that. We don't even identify with them, but we do that through our leveling up in consciousness, through our alignment, our practices. And we let that spirit or the source energy, the spirit itself do the work. Like it truly is. I love the biblical scriptures that talk about it's not by our power. It's not by our works. That's true. It's not by our works. We practice and surrender so that we can allow the worker to do the work. And the worker is that higher consciousness that does the work and helps us begin to release these different things. So when we align with that power, it does something different. It helps us. It transcends the conditioning. It's like you and I used to call it the easy button. You hit the easy button, man, you letting go of all this analytical nonsense and all this mental hiccups.
Mental hiccups. Yeah, I like that.
You suddenly just transcend all that stuff.
Yes.
And suddenly this knowing can help you begin to release these misperceptions that help us all transcend by our own example. It's not that anything is broken. And when we talk about oneness and all is well, that higher level of knowing, it's just trying to let us see what we're investing in, what we're holding on to, the patterns from ancestral times, the patterns from our families, the patterns from humanity, from our societies, our nations. What patterns are we holding on to that are embracing this misperception that we are separate, that there is something to fear, that there are threats to our safety and our peace in who we are, and that the constructs and the illusions we've invested so dearly in are worthy of our investment, energy, time, and worry to protect. These things are really the very lessons, the very mess that bring the message to tell us, oh, it's not here. What we've been looking for isn't here. It's always been inside us, right? We always have been the oneness. So the healing becomes awakening to that we are the masters of the divine children of God that have the power to experience any and all things, abundance without limitation, now, vibrationally, at the frequency level, where the power lies within the kingdom of God, right? So that to me, that healing is the healing that when we begin to demonstrate it in our own lives and experience in our own lives, suddenly it's assisting the timeless space.
Healing is timeless.
Spacelessness and timelessness. It's assisting everything, just like you said, and beginning to awaken and to access that higher level. And so one other thing I'll say though is it truly comes down to our choice and our experience. And it's not that we're doing this for everyone, which we are, but we're doing it so we can experience the oneness from this point of awareness. And by doing that, yes, the added benefit is raising the consciousness or expanding the awareness for all existence to know itself more. But the reality is that's already done. That's already complete. That's already here. We're expanding ourselves into it to experience it and know it. We're choosing to step into it so that we can taste of it, right? So it's not like, and then as we do that, we remind others, oh yeah, I can do that too. Oh snap, I can step into the goodness, you know? Yes. So it's not, you know, it's not like, oh, we got to save the world. Like, cause I grew up in that energy where, you know, proselytize and save the world and all of that. And now I'm even that burden, it has been lifted to recognize the I am has already done it. The I am has got this. I'm just trying to wake up and see it's here. The kingdom of God is within you. And get in.
Suck it up. But you know something that I'm really take a whiff of this goodness. Something that I'm is kind of like just like lighting me up right now is when you talked about your dog Jerry Jones. And I'm so moved by what I'm realizing on a deeper level is, you know, you talked about that experience with Jerry Jones and how, I mean, you gave a short version of it. I mean, it was a healing experience for you.
It was.
And in that moment, something in you, your heart opened. Yeah. There was a softness to you, which wasn't just about your relationship with the dog. It's your relationship with you. There was more capacity for love, for understanding, to move through. Yeah. So we have people in our lives, but I can't tell us, I just feel this energy rushing through me. There are people in our lives who have touched us. Yeah. They've helped us come to ourselves. Yeah. They helped us really recognize who we are, or maybe have a different perspective about something that happened. Yeah. And sometimes we say, they helped me heal. Yes, they did. But really, they became a place for the love that already existed to happen through so that I can get the love that I've been praying for. Yes. So the unforgiveness could be about my father, but the healing comes through my relationship with the dog, where I get in touch with love in a whole new way. So the heart is not so constricted anymore. So people who come into our lives that help us see things, I don't know, this just makes me so emotional.
That's so true, bro.
Oh my God, you go ahead.
Now you own it. You own it, baby. It reminds me, same thing with my son, same thing with my wife, my daughters, but you know, just people. It's like really everything. Like we were talking about earlier, everything, there's that opportunity. It's just when we look out at the world and everything we've experienced, everything that's come into our life, everything that's in our awareness or that can arise in our awareness, all of it is that opportunity to not only align, but to expand our awareness into the perfection, the love, the underlying love, the grace. I love to say the grace because it's such a powerful design. And when I'm aligned and my awareness is expanded, I sense just that beautiful love and compassion, like you're talking about, the same energy that's coming up for you, right?
Yes.
How each person, each thing, each experience has been such a gift in our lives, to assist us in experiencing and seeing that love. We get distracted from it. We don't always see it, and that's okay, because even that is helping us increase our desire to come back to love, to return to love, as Marianne Williams would say, right?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
But like I can even think about like our son, his heart, his sensitivity, my wife's upbringing, my wife's compassion and nurturing nature, my strong will and discipline to, do certain things, all of that coming together, being such a great learning for me to see different perspectives and how it's expanded me into appreciation and finally recognizing the only way to truly know who I am to be and what's best and highest in any moment is to connect with the knowing, and that's always available. That's all, and it's what's allowed me to know what's best for my son, and be able to apologize when I need to apologize, right? Be able to recognize that apology is going to be helpful here.
And how old is Johnny now?
Now he's 10.
Right. And you've been doing it since like 3, 4, where you sit him down and have a conversation with him.
Yeah. And I'll tell you another thing. Kathy was really a teacher for me to see how to communicate from a different place. Like when I would see her relating to Jolie at 2.5 and 3, the way she would communicate to her was like an adult. I learned that from her, just seeing that experience of, wow, she don't communicate like, like I would think you did too. You talking to her like she is a little adult.
Oh,
there was respect.
Yes. A
level of respect, love, and honoring that I learned and incorporated into my relationship. And I have this, I bring a little bit of the old and the new that I learned, but it's not that the other thing that the knowing allows me to see is what I grew up in. Nothing was wrong with that. What I've observed in others, nothing's wrong with that. And what I do, nothing's wrong with that. And what I hear to do, nothing's wrong with that. And in fact, what I hear I'm to do feels the best for me. So once I've learned to align and listen to spirit and operate from that, like when I have a conversation with my son and I go away, or my wife or anyone, and I feel funny about it, I check in. I ask. During the conversation, I'm checking in. But if I forget to do that and I get distracted, I come back to it, be like, wow, why do I feel funny about this? Why are these emotions here? What did I do what was best and the highest, or was there a way? Was it a lesson here? And I'll get it and be like, it always brings the knowing, like telling me exactly what I need to see so that I can shift and be more harmonious, more loving. Loving doesn't always look like what we think it's going to look like, but it tells me exactly what's best and highest for this moment. And so when I follow that I think that's what's created the most fulfilling relationships. And that's what, for me, is most moving. So when it comes to knowing how to be what I am to be, when it comes to us knowing how to be what we're here to be, when it comes to you knowing how to be what you are here to be, where is your source of information? Is it society, your upbringing, your past, your culture, your nation, your religion? Is it the source itself? To me, the source itself trumps anything else, man. It like frees us so that we can have that quote healing we've been talking about.
That's it. That's it. And in that healing, not only do we get to, if we're looking at it from a place of parenting, we get to heal our relationship with our children, as well as create a new paradigm as they grow up, because now they're learning a new way. So healing, when we say, oh, that person's more loving and that person isn't, it's like, no, that was the person that was supposed to deliver the love, or maybe the one that we were open to. So True. Love and healing is always available. Love is just like, whenever you're ready. I'm always thinking of what's that Mario, right? Where Mario, the old one, the game.
Yeah.
And you don't play it for a while, and it just sits at the edge, and it just tapping his feet like, whenever you're ready, I'm here. So it's like, love is like, I'm here.
That's so true, man.
You want to open up? I'm come rushing in.
You remind me
we're
of
not
something
open
too.
to it. Go ahead.
You remind me of something too. There was a quote India put it, or someone just put up, of someone talking about their English dad, right? And it reminded me, as you were speaking, of one of the most powerful lessons when I was connecting. There it is. I had always wished my English dad could relate to me as an adult. Thank you, Susie. One of the most powerful lessons I got when it came to the relationship with my father, and I think I may have shared this, but it was really getting to this state of alignment and listening to spirit, listening to the I am, and it allowing me to feel and know that it has always been my father. It is my father's father. It is all humanity's father. And I have never been separate from it. It has always been here because I am an extension of it. When we begin to align with the source, it does that with everything. Any and all things we have felt we are separate from, it begins to show us we've never been separate from it. And we get to experience it. We get to experience. I felt a knowing and a sense of love that healed this sense of victimization and woundedness of not having a father. That was eliminated, not by my thinking and this, that, but by my surrender to that knowing that knew exactly how to do the work, how to do the healing. It completely shifted my perception to a place of not believing, not practicing, affirming, but knowing. It set me free from the misperception of not knowing. And so when we're talking about healing and shifting and looking at our old patterns, the source of our true healing, from what I've experienced thus far and what I hear when I align, is truly that highest self. What is the highest self? The highest self is the source itself. That which we extend from, that which we are made in the image of. That is the highest self, the I am conscious, the oneness. I and the Father are one. That is where we have to go if we truly want to know and be set free. And how we get there, of course, are the practices that we need to find that work for us. I don't care if it's your religion. It can be the Bible. It can be prayer. I don't care what it is. That's not for me to decide. It's for you to find and work it and experience, so you can have that knowing that sets you free and even transcends belief. It transcends all of that, and it truly is grace. Like, I can't say that enough. What is grace to me? Grace to me is just the love that is available and accessible, regardless of anything you have ever done, regardless of anything you've ever believed or thought about yourself. It is acceptable and saying yes all the time. That is grace. There is no limit to its love. There is no limit to your ability to access it. It just comes down to you doing what it takes to heal all of that stuff. There's no reason, nothing in our lives, in our past, in our families' lives, in our society's life, our ancestry, there is nothing that cannot be wrapped in the arms of this beautiful love so that we can see the beauty of it, the perfection of it, and that we can see it's already done, it's already healed, it's already perfect, and we can let go of all this programming that tells us differently. We can accept the kingdom that's already here, enter it, fully, and embrace it. So that's the work for me that what was coming up when you were talking about how all the relationships, all the different things, all the different ways that that love is coming through and helping us, bringing the lessons to remind us to remember to align, to remember to access that grace and just receive it. And suddenly it just shifts, man. It shifts everything. It feels so much better. It's relieving. It's just beautiful that we can even do that. So like right now, as we've been talking, that's my practice. Like what I'm remembering and doing is aligning and being present, breathing, relaxing. And like we can all do that at any time. We just have to find, whether it's mindfulness practices, whether it's prayers, whether it's Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, whether something that we can do at any moment, finding those things. Like even as I'm talking now, I can do it because I've been practicing. I can do the align, allow, let go, or whatever at the same time and be in that space of surrender. So that to me is paramount to having this experience, having these ancestral things come up and being able to flow and get the message and become the messenger, like you called it.
Mm-hmm. So much. And because you and I go way back, there's so many questions that keeps coming. We're like, no, we're not asking that question. We ain't got time for that today. In the limitlessness of love, do we still have to dance with the physicality of things that needs to be done? The one thing I want to say, and just ask you I can ask you one last question, but you get to ride with it as long because I know you.
You can rip on it.
That's it. That's it. Because you will. That's the thing. It's like, it's got to go in 10 minutes. Can I ask this last question? We'll see. But I think the most important thing is, I would say that no matter what we're dealing with, no matter what we're going through or growing through, the only thing that needs to be healed is the sense of separation.
Yeah.
It's this, whatever it is, whether it's hurt, betrayal, pain, judgment, suffering, there is a subscription to separation.
Yeah.
Because the moment we recognize that love is always here, unconditional love is like air. It's everywhere. It's in you. It's outside of you. If you live in a vacuum, once you open the window, it's going to come rushing in.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you this. That's right. John is on divine timing. Now, that means Kathy, your wife, said that. She said, John is on divine timing, which means she's giving me permission because she knows what you're doing next. Right. And she'll be like, no, I don't mean that. But the last question I want to ask you is, if you're in a room with a group of men who are saying, I've been through the journey. My father wasn't there, or my father and I didn't get along. He was there, but it was emotionally unavailable. And I want to repair my relationship with my children. I live with my children. I don't live with my children. I was never there, whatever the case may be, but they're seeking some kind of guidance. And so I'm putting you in that place right now. Father's Day's a few weeks from now. What would you share with them to support them, assist them on their healing journey?
Good question. So first, I would honor them for being able to look at it, open up, and being able to recognize that they may want to experience something different in their own experience, right? And internally. But two, I think you and I have recognized that in our relationship, in our conversations, that part of the things that need to be released are this misperception of our emotion, to recognize that those things that have been stored within are the places we need to go. Those emotions that have been suppressed, what we call hurt, the trauma, the disappointments, all of that. That's where the mess, as you called it, is. That's where the message is. Mm-hmm. So right. Finding practices.
The mess is the hurt. It's the pain, right? The message is you go into it to get the message.
All of that, like Susan pointed out. That's actually where the gift is. I used to call it, the way I heard it was, you can think of our perception as creating blocks when it's not in alignment with divine perception. Divine perception sees whatever arises, sees whatever happens, and keeps no record of wrongs. 1 Corinthians 13, right? It lets it pass on through. Our perception says, oh, I'm going to judge that. It's this lower perception that begins to block that energy that arises in us. And that energy is the motion, energy in motion, emotion. But then the judgment blocks that energy in motion, and then we begin to suppress it and judge it. Ooh, I don't want to feel that. I'm not going to let it pass through. And so things that even look like it trigger it, and we don't know what's going on. We got all these suppressed emotions and traumas and judgments and blocks set up that eventually it gets to the point where we feel like we can't control how we feel and our moods. Life arises and all of a sudden we're triggered, or we just wake up in a funk, whatever. And so it's like, okay, that's where the lesson is, though. This block, this triggering, this suppressed emotion, when we align, we go there and we allow that source energy to take this block and dissolve it, shift it, remove the judgments, the limited conditioned thinking, the misperceptions that is causing us to suppress that energy, or is causing us to block that flow. And as soon as that happens, our perception begins to align by the work of spirit, source energy, God, whatever you call that mysterious higher power. It does the work, shifts our perception so that suddenly that emotion can be accepted and integrated so that it flows. And so it's the misperceptions, the blocks, the traumas, the judgments that need to be removed, but we've got to go to the source that can remove them, that knows exactly for you how to remove it. So if I was in a group of gentlemen, I'd say, hey, brothers, we have been conditioned to suppress that emotion, to suppress these things and these blocks we create, these traumas, all this stuff from ancestry on through to the present. All of it has added to opportunity. They are the gifts, the buckets that we need to submerge in and feel through, to heal through, as you say. It's the opportunity to the mess to get the message. And we do that through our alignment, through our practices that help us center, to be present with it, let it arise, opening up, creating safe place to. Well, even vulnerable communication is a spiritual practice. You and I used to be, up late talking about, oh man, I'm feeling like this, and I'm remembering this that happened, and we're practicing alignment as we do it, and then the tears flow, and then we can even get feedback to each other. Like, that was a practice I used to love to do. It's, you and I at the crib just chatting and bouncing what we're seeing through alignment and listening to spirit and having these inspirations to help with the healing. So the other part is that accountability, that brothership, that having people in our lives as well. It's not that we need this. We get to do it. We get to know ourselves through what we perceive as the other is actually God in a nice package, wrapped up, in disguise, our true self showing up so we can even know ourselves from that perspective, because it's not limited to our own individuated point of awareness. So we're also learning to expand, remove the judgment, as Susie just said. Yes, expand, and to even see how the hurt is our own construct, our own misperception. It's coming from our own resistance and judgment about whatever that's happened. And then when we begin to remove that, we begin to have compassion. I have compassion for all those who did things to me that were socially inappropriate when I was growing up as a kid. I have compassion and love and see them as perfect and whole. I don't see the victimization and that anymore. For all my mistakes, I don't see that anymore. I see now through the eyes of source, through the eyes of the divine, that all is well and always is, and that inviting the brothers I'd be speaking to do the same, to learn to practice that and remember who they truly are, that they've never been victims. They've always been victors in this life. In every single happening, every single event, everything has unfolded, has happened for them, but are they ready to take the opportunity to get the message, as you said? Are they ready to look at the mess, embrace the mess, and find the message so they can let go of this misperception, this limited way of looking at life that's causing all this suffering, all this fear, all this illusion of separation? Are they ready to let it go? And if they are, these practices that they can use that work for them will allow them to experience something so transcendent, so loving, so new and so perfect. Begin to see it so differently, think differently, as Steve Jobs and the Apple crew said, right?
Yes.
You begin to think differently from this higher level, man. And it's that to me is the most fulfilling. And it's no longer about fear, forgetting everything's all right. My new favorite, what is it called? Acronym?
Acronyms,
yeah. I called it an analogy recently, but acronym.
And Kathy was like,
forgetting everything's all right. We stop doing that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
We start remembering, you know what? Everything's all right. It's okay. This is happening for me. So to those brothers, to all of us who have been conditioned to suppress what is, to reject what is, to judge what is in a way that calls it wrong, all is not well. It's really accessing that knowing that sees it differently that sets us free. And when we know that, and when we experience that, we stop suppressing the emotions. We begin to integrate with them, and then we can flow with whatever arises in life in a whole new way, whether it's politics, whether it's pandemics, whether it's finances, relationships with our family, with our children, with our parents. All that healing begins to flow and come through because we're listening to the knowing. We're not going elsewhere anymore and investing our belief in something external that is subject to change and has uncertainty to it. Instead, we're choosing the knowing and having that direct experience of that knowing and following and trusting that. And man, that changes the game for real.
We got grace. I love what Kamal said here, which I share again. Kathy just shared that. He shared that grace, the infinite yes.
Oh, I like that. The infinite yes.
The infinite yes. God always says yes. And, sometimes I try not to even use it, I switch it up and say life always says yes.
Yeah.
The divine is always saying yes.
That's it.
It never says no. Some people say, well, when you ask for something, God is telling you no, it's not your time. Okay. God is always saying yes. Because there is no right or wrong in God. It's only right or left. And either road is going to lead you.
What God might be telling you is you're projecting the solution on something external that you don't need.
That's
so
right.
You're not going to have that. But yes, you can have it internally if you make up to where the power is.
Yes. And if you do it externally, there's a consequence. You do it externally or internally. There's a consequence for whatever action you take. Mm-hmm. But whatever you do, I'm here and I'm going to keep loving you. And just the willingness for us to go to that uncomfortable place and be willing to be stripped, like my mentor and friend, and I call her my midwife, Rev D. It's like, you got to be willing to come naked, to be stripped. And the stripping really is stripping the things, the ideas that you held to be true, that you think is protecting you. Actually, the things and ideas and belief system that we're using to protect ourselves is blocking us from the blessing. Because, oh, no, I can't do that. Oh, no, we shouldn't do that. Oh, I'm black, I'm white, I'm tall, I'm short, whatever. Those are the things that are blocking us. The invitation of God, of life, of grace is come as you are and allow yourself to just strip all the BS. So anyway.
One thing, but I don't.
Sure, go ahead.
Cut it off yet because it just came to me as you were talking. So here it is, man. In the moments of struggle, they present the opportunity to birth something new. The moments of struggle are the indicators that there is an opportunity to birth something new all the time, right? The moments of struggle, whether it's emotional, whether it's circumstantial, whatever it is, struggle comes from the internal battle. But that internal battle is the opportunity to birth something new each time. The challenge becomes, like in the Matrix, you've been down that road. You've been down that path. You know where that leads. When we're doing it from our own level of misperception that sees problems and that is believing all is not well, when the computer's messing up, when the everything we're trying is not turning out the way we had hoped, when we're looking at from that perspective that feels the fear and the resistance and the judgment about what's happening, that level, we know what that feels like. It's reminding us exactly what it feels like in the now. And then it's our opportunity to birth something new. If we choose to be present in that moment, to be aware, and then to ask, like the inquiry part, even just to choose to be present and to be aware is letting go of the old way of, oh, something's wrong, and acting out of desperation. We pause. We allow that knowing to use that struggle to birth something new. We allow it to guide us into what is ready to be birthed, right? So it's that, to me, that level of surrender can happen in the worst of circumstances, the most frightening and fearful circumstances we find ourselves in, and can allow us to get the lesson, get the message, get the gift of what that circumstance is bringing us. And so I'm saying the same thing a different way, but what made me think of it was, if you think about the worst circumstances, like people being murdered, people dying in catastrophes and things like that, I used to ask about that. Like, what about that? And, people being beheaded. Through our lifetimes, we've heard and seen all kinds of things from 9/11 to even like mass graves of children and all this stuff. And all these things that are still coming to light about what our consciousness has been capable of creating and doing. And so when I go in and inquire, even in that struggle, even in that darkness, what I hear that I am say and remind me is, even there, I am there. Think about being in a plane and it crashing, blowing up and all that. Even in those moments, I am there. We've had evidence of people who have survived those sort of things talk about what happened and the transcendence that happened in those moments. It's easy for us from this lower level of that sees struggle and participates and invests in struggle to think that the divine is not there and that something is wrong when these things happen. But even there, I am. Source is not separate from these wild situations. So far be it from us to conclude and stay in these patterns of believing in separation, believing and forgetting that everything's all right, believing that love is everywhere present, or believing that it's not present. Far be it from us to believe that. Instead, bringing ourselves back to knowing and experiencing, even now, in the midst of silliness, even now, in the midst of whatever is arising, man, it's there for us. So that's my, I can stop on that, because that's to me I can say it 5 more different ways, but
because we've pretty much been repeating ourselves for the past hour and a half.
Wait. Let me say it a different way.
Right. You know what I was thinking? You and I were talking about doing things together, traveling and doing workshops. And I was thinking, I said, when we do this thing, whatever, if it happens or when it happens, we'll say what date it is, and we'll tell them what time it starts. And then we'll say it finished when we're done. Because if we put time to it, people are going to be upset. That's right. Because I've been trying to wrap this up.
Hey, TBU.
Right.
What time is it in TBU? To be unfolded.
So don't schedule anything after this event. That's it, man. John, I love you, man.
Hey, I love you, man. Thank you for having me once again. Always,
man.
It's
so beautiful. You said what?
I said we have church, man.
Yes, I mean, and it's just came. I asked Spirit who to bring on, and you came on. I was like, great. But for me, it's been this experience of, I don't know if I can say I missed it because I can always call you and talk. But in last week and this week, it's almost like, oh yeah, I remember when we just talk about different things and go to different, like you've been sharing, without repeating the whole thing that you just said, it's like, wow. And the thing that becomes really hard to look at, to be with, becomes the tool to say, oh my God, thank you, Spirit. That's actually a gift. Yeah. When I thought it was such a horrible experience. But anyway, thank you for who you've been in the world, my brother.
Thank you, bro.
I love and appreciate you so much.
Likewise, man. Thank you so much for being the light that you are, being the compassionate soul, the loving soul, and the teacher and the sharer, creating platforms for all of us to come and share our messages.
Yes, indeed.
Appreciate the work you're doing.
Oh, you're very welcome, my brother. Thank you.
Peace and love to all y'all. Nah.
Yes, indeed. Check out John's website, John Stringer Inc., johnstringerinc.com. Everything that he's doing, speaking, singing, podcasting, all that he's doing is up there. Christine, Robert, thank you for being here. Susie, Quali, let me scroll up. Emmy, right? Yeah, I remember you. New Jays on YouTube. Thank you. She said, what a beautiful friendship. What a beautiful, truthful friendship you two have. It is indeed. I'm so grateful. Elijah, thank you. And if I miss your name, Shoyinka, like someone said recently, charge it to my head, not my heart. India, thank you for doing what you do behind the scenes. I love you. I bless you. I appreciate you. And I thank God for you. I'll be back next week. Next week is the first Tuesday of the month, right? So that means Rev D is joining us. And I'm just grateful. I'm grateful. Whatever you do, remember that you're part of the one consciousness. No matter what it looks like, even while you're pissed, you're part of the one consciousness. While you're feeling peaceful, and however you're feeling, based on this song that John put out, remember, you're always welcome to the house of love. Peace and blessings.
Embrace and let go. Trust the flow. There's a freedom in love when you follow your heart. Together we are stronger than we could ever be apart. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you